A satanic black mass happening in Kansas. Tucker Carlson says confession is the coolest thing. One simple decision that can make you 500% happier. And what's going on with Gen Z? Hey guys, I'm Father David Michael Moses. I'm a Catholic priest. And if you enjoy this kind of stuff, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. So let's dive right in. First of all, I was sad to see that there's a satanic black mass being planned in Kansas. If you're not familiar with this kind of stuff, there are actually Satanists who believe in the devil and are choosing to serve the devil. So you have people who are atheists who don't believe in God or any kind of spiritual beings, but there are also people who are Satanists who absolutely do believe in God, and they believe in the devil and they choose to serve the devil. And there are different groups that practice and believe different things, but in many cases, what they do is the opposite of what the Catholic Church does. So everything is essentially flipped upside down to worship Satan instead of to worship God. So one example is like for us as Christians, 3 p.m. is the hour of mercy. It's the hour when Jesus died, and it's very sacred for us. So often for Satanists, like 3 a.m., the opposite time is the one that for them is revered. So for me as a priest, I say Mass. It's a sacrifice to worship God. And Satanists do something called a black Mass, which is a sacrifice, kind of the opposite of what we do, but a sacrifice for Satan. And what often happens is they will steal a consecrated host from a Mass, and they will then desecrate that host at their black Mass. Even at my parish, there's sometimes, before my time, I heard that there were rumors that there were Satanists in the area who were trying to steal hosts. So the pastor actually had to make it very clear to everybody at the Mass, hey guys, be on the lookout. Make sure people who are receiving the Eucharist at Mass are actually consuming it. If you see somebody taking it, then make sure that you say something. I had one experience slightly different, but with a mom who came to my office at another parish who told me that she was in her son's room and she actually found a box in his closet, and it actually had hosts in it. And it freaked her out, as it should. She didn't know what he was planning to do with their hosts. It didn't seem like he had certain plans with them, but he was taking them from the church and he was sticking them in this box. So scary stuff, and certainly something for us to be watching out for as Catholics. But kind of interesting in this story, it seemed like the bishop, when he heard about this Mass, started a lawsuit actually against the group, saying that they, if they had taken a consecrated host, they needed to return it. Because it sounds like even though we give out the hosts to people, that there is an expectation in good faith that they're participating in the Mass and that they want to actually receive it and they actually believe what's going on here. So if someone receives it sort of in bad faith and actually is taking it to desecrate it, it seems like there's actually legal recourse for that for the church. So that lawsuit was initiated, but it sounded like eventually the head guy for the Satanist group said that they didn't actually use a consecrated host from the Catholic Church, that he was going to consecrate his own host in a sense for their Mass. So that was eventually dropped. Apparently, there was a protest that actually was effective in getting a black Mass that was planned at Harvard to get dropped in 2014. So there's a precedent for kind of having enough backlash to get these things stopped. So there's a petition going around trying to stop this. At the end of the day, I mean, it's a good reminder that evil is very, very real, and there are some people who actually want to be a part of it. And they're a part of it, I think in a lot of ways, because they want something out of it. They're looking for something, and they feel like they're getting that from the Satanic Church. But at the end of the day, Satan can never love someone. Satan doesn't want sons and daughters. He wants slaves. And it's the exact opposite of what we believe as Catholics, that we believe we have a Father who loves us and wants us to be his free sons and daughters who he himself actually sacrifices for us. You know, I've heard Bishop Barron say that when the church gets rid of something, the culture kind of picks it up. In other words, you know, for us as a church, we have these beautiful rituals and we have beautiful sacrifices, and it's all oriented towards something meaningful and beautiful. And when young people don't grow up being offered that beautiful option, sometimes they go in search of something else to take that place that is also a ritual and a sacrifice, but it's something that is evil and empty as opposed to something that is beautiful and fulfilling. So certainly praying for that Mass hopefully will not happen, that Black Mass won't happen. Next up, cool clip from Tucker Carlson and Jonathan Roumie. Tucker was interviewing him. You guys might be familiar with Jonathan Roumie. He plays Jesus in the Chosen series. There's a new season for that coming out pretty soon. And Jonathan actually is a Catholic. So the sacrament of confession gets mentioned, and Tucker Carlson is not a Catholic, but he says this, and I had some kind of thoughts about his response.
No, I said, that's not for my ears. Save it for the confessor. So it's, I'm not Catholic, but I've always thought that confession's the coolest thing they do. It's a gift, man. It's a lifesaver. Of course. When it became psychotherapy and you put like an atheist with bad judgment on the couch across from you, I don't think we lost something. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
I love that. This is my thing. Confession just makes so much sense. Like even to a non-Catholic, it makes sense to actually come in, to actually say your sins, to get it out there. I've kind of heard it described as like physically when you, let's say you eat something bad, like old food or something like that, your body has to get it out. Like it's coming out one of the ways, okay? Your body has to get rid of it. Otherwise, you're just going to remain sick. And the same way spiritually, when we do something bad, when we bring something spiritually bad into ourselves, we have to get it out of us. We have to do something. So one, speaking it is important, but also the actual absolution from the sacrament is going to be what makes us new again.
Yeah. But the human need to connect, to unburden yourself, you know what's wrong, by the way. Most people know. You know. You don't need to be a Christian to know what's wrong. Everyone knows. Inside you know when you're doing something wrong. Yeah.
That is also a great point. We have a conscience. People know right and wrong. You know, people act like, well, I don't really know. I can't really think of anything to say for confession. What? You can't think of anything to say? I mean, St. John Paul II went to confession. He was a saint. He went to confession every single week. The more we actually start to engage with this stuff, the more we start to see like there's tons and tons of sins out of there. Or with like children, right? Oh, well, what could a child have done wrong? Oh, you talk to like a 7-8-year-old. Like they have a good sense of sin. So anyone who's not, I just love this point. I love him saying that like people know right and wrong.
And to say it out loud, to articulate it in words. Yeah. Is to rid yourself of it to some extent, I think. And yeah. And then
I love that. He says to speak it out loud is in some way to rid yourself. The line I heard from a psychologist, secular psychologist, but I thought it was a great point for confession. He says, how do I know what I think until I hear what I say? How do I know what I think until I hear what I say? As long as stuff is just kind of sitting in here in the darkness, sin or other things, it's hard to really know what's going on. But when you sit down and you actually say it to someone, like, I think it's actually what I did was this. Well, now you can do something about it. Now you actually know what was going on. And especially to have a situation like confession, which is confidential and anonymous, to have an opportunity to be able to speak all of that is just the healthiest, most beautiful environment to be able to approach those things. And then obviously to receive mercy. Like the words back from God are never ones of judgment in confession. Those are ones of mercy and restoration. So let's keep going here.
For the sacramental part of it, that's where the healing comes in. That's where the spiritual healing comes in. So it's like if you're a cheesecloth full of holes, right? And you go into confession and you receive the sacrament of reconciliation from the priest. And the priest, we believe he's been given divine authority that has maybe a not visible, but a tangible, physical, metaphysical effect on the casing of your soul. And it's like mending the little holes. Every confession is like you're closing up those holes.
Yeah, I love how you emphasize the very real healing, that there is a psychological element to it that Carlson seems to be kind of pulling out. But I like how Jonathan says, yes, that totally is true, but there's a deep spiritual healing that is truly happening in the sacrament of confession as well. And that is just so, so true. I was at an event a while back, and someone mentioned how Jordan Peterson said, Jordan Peterson's not Catholic either, but he said, man, Catholic confession just makes so much sense. It makes so much sense that with these bad things that we have a place that we can bring them to the Lord. So yeah, I just love this. And I think it's great that they're talking about it. And hopefully we start to see more and more people in the culture who are seeing the sensibility of the sacrament of confession and hopefully making use of it, becoming Catholic. That's what it's all about. Let's take a look at this. I thought this was so fascinating. This one simple decision, simple but huge, one simple decision can make you 545% happier. So we all want to be happier, right? Of course. If I told you there was something that could make you 10% happier, you'd probably be kind of interested. If I said it could make you 100% happier, you would really be listening. If I said it could make you 250% happier, you'd be really interested to know. And this can actually make you 545% happier than people who don't do this. Here's what it is. The odds that men and women say they are very happy with their lives are a staggering 545% higher for those who are very happily married compared to their peers who are not married or who are less than very happy in their marriages. So it is the person you decide to marry and the person you are as you get married and how you live out that marriage that can make you 545% happier. So one, for me as a celibate man, part of this was that they also were looking at the lives of people who are not married. Now, I am very, very happily celibate. And in fact, they say, I think it's 90% of priests say that they would choose their vocation again. So priests generally are very, very happy people. I would also say that a big part of this study is probably looking at connection. And as priests, we are celibate. We don't get married, but we do have tons of connection in our lives. We have tons of relationship with people that we care about, who we love, who love us, and those are meaningful things oriented toward God. So I think it's probably a lot of what this is about. But even for me as a celibate man, I recognize that being married to someone who is going to help you live out the vocation of marriage well is going to be a huge asset for your happiness. People who are less happy in their marriages aren't just slightly less happy; they're way less happy. Like that decision, that marriage point is a huge difference maker in the way the rest of your life works. Similar study they did, if I remember correctly, with people who were really happy with their jobs versus being really happy with their spouses. And basically, if you didn't have a happy marriage, you couldn't be happy enough with your job to make your life good, basically. Whereas if you were really happy with your marriage, having a job you didn't love didn't really matter that much. Like you were still pretty happy. And what happens when you get married? You become one flesh. Of course, it's going to make a difference for your life. The analogies I like to use, I heard somebody say, being married to somebody who you don't really have the same beliefs as is like being in a car ride with somebody who doesn't want to go to the same place you want to go. Like somebody's going to be unhappy the entire way. Or like being in a canoe with somebody and you're paddling on this side and they're paddling on that side, the opposite direction. It's just going to be a constant source of frustration. So as if we needed more evidence for marriage making a big difference in people's lives, here is yet another reason to choose well and to live it well. Lastly, wanted to look at this video I saw pop up about Gen Z. And the beginning of the video, it looks like things are headed in one direction, but the guy at the end offers a bit of a twist that I think is kind of fascinating. So let's take a look at this little video here. Not long.
Gen Z's teen pregnancy rate is 78% lower than 91. 31% of millennials drink regularly, only 18% of Gen Z's drink.
Yep.
A third of Gen Z doesn't even drink. This has never been observed.
Right.
They're completely abstinent.
Right.
They are more frugal than millennials. They are more health conscious. Yes, this obsession with social media and the phone, although may have produced this thing, are we not then going to credit this thing with this huge leap forward this generation?
So looks good, right? A lot of these metrics, obviously like teen pregnancy rate, you want that to be down. You don't want people having intercourse outside of marriage. You don't want people to be drinking at a young age, all this stuff. Obviously, these things look like positive metrics. And I would say isolated they are, but keep watching.
Generations taken, all this promising stuff we know about them. I mean, I know of the anxiety depression figure, but that's to me one metric out of like 6, and they're like thriving in the other department.
The anxiety and the depression to me is a huge metric. It's not just one of 6, but anyways.
Well, you said they're thriving. That's an interesting phrase.
Improving.
Okay, on a number of metrics, their behavior is better. On a lot of the self-destructive metrics, their behavior is better. That's all true. Now, does
So self-destructive, like really, really bad habits, a lot of that stuff looks better.
that mean they're thriving? Why are they not drinking? Why are they not driving cars? Why are they not dating?
Why aren't they getting pregnant?
Why are they not getting pregnant? Why do you think it is? Because they're so wise? They just
Because they're so wise and mature, and they're so beyond their years. That's funny.
you know what? These are risky.
Because they're not with other people.
They're not doing anything.
They're not being
If
social.
you're just on your bed all day long scrolling through social media, then you're not going to be doing any of those things.
Interesting, right? Very, very interesting. For me, what this makes me think is I see this so often in my ministry. The devil will get you either way. He'll get you either way. If the devil can get a generation to drink and smoke and revel in debauchery, and to have that be their pursuit, and to kind of lose their way in life because of that, to lose themselves to addiction and to impure relationships and all that stuff, and to lose their meaning and their sense of self-worth in that, then he'll do it. If he sees that you'll bite at that, boom, he'll go. But on the other hand, if he can get you to just do nothing, to not be around people, to not engage in any kind of impurity or over the board, drinking or something like that, because you're just not around people, then he'll take that too. If he can get you focused on addicted to the phone, maybe you're not addicted to drinking, but you're addicted to your phone, he'll take it. He'll take it either way. So yes, there's a positive side to the fact that there's less of these destructive behaviors in Gen Z. And I'm not far from Gen Z, so I'm not judging the generation. I would say a lot of those things, the younger millennials and the Gen Z, it's a lot of stuff is very, very similar. But if just because there is a avoidance of these self-destructive behaviors doesn't mean that we've achieved virtue. And I think the rates of anxiety and depression are pretty clear indicators of that. So what I would say is virtue is always in the mean. Yeah, we should be with people, but we shouldn't be getting drunk with people. Yes, you should have good relationships, but you shouldn't be committing impurity in those relationships. Yes, we should be going out and engaging, but we shouldn't allow that to become self-destructive. In the same vein, I would say there's also a goodness to being at home, but it shouldn't just be home on the phone all the time, right? And so I think these are conversations really worth having as families and as people, that the devil always wants you to get lost in one extreme, in one direction, and make it look like an improvement when really he just has you lost somewhere else, right? And I think, again, virtue for us is neither of these things. It's a path of holiness in the middle. So yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let me know if you kind of liked this format, hitting different topics in a different way, in a longer segment. Let me know what you guys think about these issues. Let me know what else would be interesting to talk about. And we'll see you guys next time. God bless.